Hey YouTube, how's it going today? Hey, I know we started talking about this adventure. We were talking about getting into breeding ASF rats. So I did locate a friendly strain of ASF rats, a couple hours drive from here. He has some real nice bloodlines. So we're gonna go down and see him today, pick up some breeders, and we'll get back with you and show you what we got. Thanks. Okay guys, well we got them picked up. I got a couple different sets of ASF rats, and they're very unique. When they're colonized, meaning once they grow big enough and they're going to have babies in the colony, at that point you cannot reintroduce any other rats to that colony or they will kill the new introductees. Um, they're a very interesting colony because usually can set up one male, anywhere from two females, anywhere up to 5, 6 or more. You don't want to have too few females, or it can become, there'll be a lot of fighting in the colony because overbreeding, that type of thing. So I got a couple different colonies. I'm going to set up a couple different ways and see how it works. I'm going to set up one colony with one male, one female, just see how that goes. Then I'm going to set up another colony with one male, two females, and then the last colony is going to be one male and 5 females. So we're going to just kind of see, which colony does better. Um, Another thing you need to know about these rats is to get them to breed, they require a very high protein diet. So your average food that you go to a pet store and get um, may have high protein, but it's going to have high fat, and that won't work with these rats. You need a fat content of less than 10%. And a protein content, if you can get it somewhere above 20%, 2021 is ideal, which is a little tough to find. Missouri makes a rat, it's not their 6F, it's one step above that. It's called, I believe it's called rodent diet, and it's got a higher protein level than the 6F, but a fat content of like 8 or 9%, so it's under that 10% mark. You can also supplement their diet if you are going to feed like a dog food or something with a little bit lower protein. You can supplement them with insects, and probably the best one to do that with would be a superworm. Some of the other worms have high fat, like not a, butterworms are good, but they're tough to get right now because of COVID and everything going on. They come from out of the country, so they're tough to get right now. Waxworms, they do love waxworms, but they're very high in fat, so you got to just give them in moderation. But mealworms or superworms are a good option for you if you're going to supplement their diet. You will notice a lot of times where the females will be the only ones eating them. The males sometimes do or do not eat them. The females are the ones looking for the extra protein, basically for milk production, that type of thing. So here's one of the colonies I was talking about. Um, you see there's several different colors. They come in different colors. And they some people do use them as pets. They have some pretty colors that come with them for pets. So obviously, we're using them for feeders, and sometimes that can be controversial. But just like anything, snakes has to eat, and snakes eat rodents. So it's the food chain. It's a cycle of life. So you can say what you want to say, but a snake has to feed and has to eat a rodent. So that's one of the things you have to deal with as a snake owner. It's not easy if you're an animal lover, because you can become very attached to these rats. They can be very friendly, and you can develop a little bit of relationship with them, and then you have to feed them off. So it can be tough. Um, but that's part of being a snake owner or reptile owner, is their main source of protein and subsistence is rodents. So it's one of those things. So yeah, we did get a couple different sets of these, and they're ready to breed. In fact, he said there may even be some that are pregnant now, so we'll be rolling soon with babies and all that. Another thing with these, a lot of times their first litters in the colonies that are very small. Sometimes they will not survive. Sometimes the mothers can eat them, depending on how safe they feel, or if it's a first-time litter. You can run into some issues getting going with these ASF rats. It's not as easy as a Norwegian rat. Pretty much Norwegian rats are very friendly typically. Typically you put males and females together and you're having babies, and you can take males out of colonies and put them back in, so you can control population that way. With these you cannot. If you take a male out of this colony even for a day, sometimes they will not accept that male back into the colony, and they'll fight and kill the male. So they're very tough to control. The only way to introduce uh, new rodents into their colony is to let the young grow up long enough to be a part of the colony. So instead of taking the young and putting them into their own bin, you're going to take the young, let them grow up with the family, and then they can also breed with them. If you need to replace a male, you can do it that way. If you want to add females, you can do it that way. But that's really the only way to do it. The only time you can mix these is before they've bred and become a colony. So if you have, these have babies, you put them into a bin. Another colony has babies, you put them into the bin. That's okay, because that bin has not had babies yet. But if those babies grow up long enough to have babies in the bin, then you're done. You're going to have to move to another bin, because if you introduce any rats to that bin once they've had babies, you're going to have problems. So they're a unique rat. But the nice thing about these compared to Norwegian rats or mice is the smell. They have very little smell, basically like a hamster or a gerbil. You can clean their enclosures once a week, even once every 2 weeks, and you're not going to have anywhere near the odor you would with a Norwegian rat. Within a few days of Norwegian rats or mice, there's a very noticeable smell. So that's another nice thing about these, and that they're ball pythons' meal of choice. These are the normal meal that a ball python would eat in Africa. Would be the African soft fur rat. So if you have a picky eater ball python and you're having trouble with it eating, you're trying to feed it frozen thawed rats, or you're trying to feed it just even live Norwegian rats, and you're having problems, a lot of times an ASF or African soft fur rat will solve that problem, and you'll have your ball python eating. Another thing to remember with these rats is they don't get near as big as a Norwegian rat. But according to some of the experts, the big breeders, they're saying that even though this is a smaller size package-wise for your ball python, that the nutrients are as good or better than something double the size. So if you have say a 70-80 gram African soft fur rat versus a 150 gram Norwegian rat, they're basically saying that 70-80 gram African soft fur rat is going to give you the same nutrients or more than that bigger Norwegian rat, which is very interesting. And the nice thing about these is they don't get too big for a ball python to eat. They're always going to be good for your adult ball pythons. They're never going to get too big to eat, where a Norwegian rat is if you have a litter and you're feeding off, and all of a sudden you're getting weeks into that litter and not having them fed off, you're going to have rats too big to feed to your ball pythons typically. So where these, their adult size, their largest size is good for any adult ball python, and then their young are great for your baby ball pythons and small ball pythons. So great to have if you're able to breed. If you have a small collection, it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. They don't require a lot of food, they eat very little, but they do need quality food. High protein, low fat is the key to have healthy rats, healthy litters, and also your ball pythons are what they eat, so you're going to have healthier, more colorful, and better ball pythons for eating ASF rats. So, thanks again for tuning in. We'll get our ASF rats set up. I have a rack that my brother was kind enough to build. Thank you, Brett, for building it for me. I'm not the greatest carpenter in the world. I'm pretty sure I would have escapees if I had built it, but he did a great job building it for me, so I thank him for that. And we're going to get these rats in, get them settled, and get them breeding, and we'll get back with you when we have some babies on that. And then we will be getting some more ball pythons in, and catching you up with that, and giving you some more information on ball pythons, keeping, breeding, and tips like that. So please subscribe if you haven't. I want you guys to come along this journey with me. We're just getting started, so it's the best time to like and subscribe and get in on this with me, and then you guys can see all the good, all the bad, all the interesting things that happen as you're starting a ball python keeping and breeding project. So jump on with us, like and subscribe, and I appreciate you guys watching today, and have a great day. Thanks.